Welcome to First Parish Church in Billerica. We are a welcoming and accessible congregation of Unitarian Universalists. Whoever you are and wherever you are on life's journey, we are so delighted that you are here today. My name is Teresa English, and I am your worship leader this morning. Many of you know me as the administrator, but I have recently accepted a call into the ministry. With your support and love, I will be starting a Master's of Divinity program in Chicago at Meadville Lombard Theological Seminary. Their Master of Divinity program will require me to travel to Chicago once for a week, and then I will be able to attend classes online for the remainder of the semester. So this is my first sermon since beginning the discernment process, and I welcome your feedback after the service downstairs. Thank you to Brita for allowing me this opportunity to kick off a new chapter of my life in this beautiful pulpit and before this caring community. So in 1655, settlers founded the town of Billerica on the unceded land of the Pawtucket and Massachusetts people of the Wabanaki nations. As the center of power in a frontier town, First Parish Church contributed and benefited from the oppression of many people, from local indigenous people to the kidnapped and enslaved peoples of Africa. Their spiritual and physical connections continue today, and we honor their wisdom and resilience. This church has not always been on the right side of history, but we are never ceasing in our belief in the power of each other. From Puritans to Unitarian Universalists, this congregation endures and evolves, united in shared history, values, and loving bonds. If this is your first time, we are so glad you have decided to join us today, and we will try and strike a balance of being pleased as punch and respectful without being too aloof or too much. This small but mighty congregation is busy with activities and would love more attendance at any of our events, which can be found in your order of service. We each come to this space carrying baggage, pain, fear, and uncertainty. As we light our chalice this morning, I encourage you to breathe deeply and set down those burdens for just a little while. The tradition of lighting a chalice at the beginning of a worship service is a ritual to remind us that in this space, you are loved and celebrated as you are, your whole, authentic being. Thank you, Brita, for lighting the flame and getting us started in worship together. May its light guide us toward each other. Now is the time for our opening words. Often people say that they love coming to a place with so many like-minded people. I know what they are getting at, and I know that they aren't getting it quite right. I don't want to be with a bunch of people who think like me. I want to be in a beloved community where I don't have to think like everyone else to be loved, to be eligible for salvation. I want to be with people who value compassion, justice, love, and truth, though they have different thoughts and opinions about all sorts of things. I want to be with independent-minded people of good heart. I want to be with people who have many names and no name at all for God. I want to be with people who see in me goodness and dignity, who also see my failings and foibles, and who still love me. I want to be with people who feel their interconnection with all existence and let it guide their footfalls upon the earth. I want to be with people who see life as a paradox and don't always rush to resolve it. I want to be with people who are willing to walk the tightrope that is life and who will hold my hand as I walk mine. I want to be with people who let church call them into a different way of being in the world. I want to be with people who support, encourage, and even challenge each other to higher and more ethical living. I want to be with people who inspire one another to follow the call of the Spirit. I want to be with people who covenant to be honest, engaged, and kind, who strive to keep their promise and hold me to the promises I make. I want to be with people who give of themselves, who share their hearts and minds and gifts. I want to be with people who know that human community is often warm and generous, sometimes challenging, and almost always a grand adventure. In short, I want to be with people like you. Thank you, Dana Worsnop, for allowing us to be touched by your words. So please rise as you are able to sing Gather the Spirit. The hymn can be found in the gray hymnal, number 347. Thank you all for being here today. This talk would be much more difficult to pull off if there wasn't a community to speak in front of. If you couldn't tell, today's focus is on community building. The orientation of those words is important. In this space, we aren't building a community because a community already exists. Think back to those Legos the kids played with earlier. The colors, the shapes, and orientation of the interlocking pegs is almost infinite, sort of like the people in this room. Many of us were not born in Billerica. Many of us don't even live in Billerica, but we all assemble here together and slot ourselves into the place that feels most comfortable. This building of concrete, wood, and plaster isn't what creates First Parish Church. It's the people that assemble within this space that create the community. Don't get me wrong, the building is special. The simple elegance and beauty allow each generation the ability to mold and shape it for their own uses. My point is, we didn't come here today for the building. We come for the space created by those you see around you. Intentionality is a key aspect of community building. Unless you're new, which, welcome. I'm so glad you joined us, and I hope you come back again. Each week is a little different, but we hope to be consistent in our journey toward a beloved community. If you've signed the membership book, you joined the thousands of members over the years in a covenantal community. With the new member ceremony, which happened just a few weeks ago, the congregation promises to welcome members into the fold, to create space for them, while admitting the imperfections of our best efforts. The president of our governing board charges members with giving of themselves to the community they joined, specifically giving their special gifts, energies, and ideas. The minister closes the ceremony with the imagery of a beacon of hope growing brighter through the addition of new sources of light. It's a beautiful ceremony with roots in revolutionary acts that keep the focus on intentionality. We chose to be in this space at this time with anyone who walks through the door. Each Sunday we open the doors is an exercise in hope. We assume that people will show up and worship with us, but we never really know who that's going to be. The community of people create a welcoming space because of our commitment to shared values. That commitment is one of the pillars of our community. As a congregational member of the Unitarian Universalist Association, we are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. One of those values is on equity. We declare that each person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. Equity is an inspirational and aspirational goal, not an item to be checked off. There is no point where we can pat ourselves on the back and say, that's enough, everything is good. Choosing to aspire to goals that are unobtainable can be uncomfortable. To live in our society and hold values centered in love cannot be comfortable, for it is the very act of resistance that leads to accusations of being maladjusted. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke about being called maladjusted in a speech to the Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas in 1966. He said, "But I must honestly say there are some things in our nation and the world to which I am proud to be maladjusted and wish all men of goodwill would be maladjusted until the good society is realized. I never intend to adjust myself to segregation and discrimination. I never intend to become adjusted to a religious bigotry. I never intend to adjust myself to economic conditions that will take necessities from the many to give luxuries to the few, leaving millions of people smothering in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society. I never intend to adjust myself to the madness of militarism and the self-defeating effects of physical violence. We need maladjusted men and women where these problems are concerned. It may well be that our whole world is in need of the formation of a new organization, the International Association for Advancement of Creative Maladjustment. Men and women who will be as maladjusted as the prophet Amos, who in the midst of the injustices of his day cried the words that echoed across the centuries. Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Maladjusted as Abraham Lincoln, who had the vision to see that this nation could not survive half slave and half free. As maladjusted as that great Virginian Thomas Jefferson, who in the midst of an age amazingly adjusted to slavery could scratch words across the pages of history, words lifted to cosmic proportions. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As maladjusted as Jesus Christ, who could say to the men and women around the Galilean hills, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, pray for them that despitefully use you. And through such maladjustment, we will be able to emerge from the bleak and desolate midnight of man's inhumanity to man into the bright and glittering daybreak of freedom and justice. May we continue to refuse to become maladjusted to the inequities, or may we continue to refuse to become adjusted to the inequities and inhumanities within our communities. If one pillar of community is commitment to shared values, another pillar is trust. We must trust one another. Trust as a pillar is vital for the success of a community. Out front, we have 4 Doric columns that support part of the building and roof. We trust those columns to continue to support the building with barely a thought. If suddenly we learned that one of those pillars was weakened, I couldn't continue to stand up here and speak and watch the building crumble. No one would sit idly by. We immediately rush to the crisis. Mistrust is like water seeping into the concrete, slowly degrading the structural support. I used the columns out front as an example of pillars, but I want to expand the definition of pillars beyond physical columns or posts, because people are also pillars of community. We have with us people who have been members for decades, and those who have been members for just a few weeks. Some of us have spent thousands of hours investing in this community, while others send checks from faraway places. Unlike a building, the people pillars are ever shifting and evolving. Sometimes we have 5 strong pillars. Other times we have 30. There is no ownership or ruling class here, just people contributing to the collective in the best way that they can. Like a building, this community is also interdependent. According to Miki Kashtan, a practical visionary, she says, living interdependently includes knowing what we need and being able to articulate it and make requests. It also means recognizing that others aren't instruments for our needs, nor obstacles to our needs, that they are living beings with their own needs, and they might not have the capacity or willingness to do what we want. Even beyond that, they may have requests of their own that are important to them, and that the totality of needs and available resources might sometimes mean that we end up stretching to do something that isn't our immediate preference, because it serves the whole of which we are a part. In the service berry, Robin Wall Kimmerer shares a story of a hunter in a small tribe within the Brazilian rainforest. The hunter brings home a sizable kill, far too much to be eaten for his family. A researcher asked how he would store the excess. Would he smoke the meat or would he dry it? Store my meat, the hunter says. I store my meat in the belly of my brother. The hunter invites his neighbors to his fire, and they share in the valuable protein. Instead of hoarding the excess, it was distributed and benefited the community as a whole, much to the dismay of the researcher who believed the hunter to be maladjusted. Balancing the needs of the individual, the needs of the community, centering the worthiness of all, and ensuring adherence to values can sometimes feel like a lot. Thus, the importance of the final pillar, enduring optimism. One of my spiritual ancestors, John Lewis, said, "If you're not hopeful and optimistic, then you just give up. You have to take the long, hard look and just believe that if you're consistent, you will succeed." I alluded to it earlier, but really sit with the notion that yesterday, Jerry came to this church and turned on the heat so that we would be comfortable. This morning, Sarah, John Luke, and John showed up before anyone else to turn on the lights and prepare the various technologies that allow the service to be hybrid. What would happen if we all stayed home? 48 Sundays a year, volunteers and paid staff prepare for events with an enduring sense of optimism. When the church was first founded, attendance on Sundays was mandatory by law. Those refusing to attend services could be fined, forced to leave town, or worse. As the freedom to worship spread, ministers and politicians could no longer enforce attendance. We had to adapt, and we did. For example, women have not always been allowed to stand before mixed company and speak our minds, much less attend institutes of higher learning and become experts on anything outside the home. Women in Billerica have been pushing against the patriarchy since the very beginning. It's easier to become enlightened when you grow up with strong women as role models. From my reading, the wife of our very first minister, Dorcas Whiting, was a force. So far, I only have impressions based on how others wrote about her, but she was followed by Sarah Cummings, whose portrait hangs on the wall, and Adeline Blanchard. Adeline Blanchard grew up in this church, was baptized here, and likely attended Sunday school, a revolutionary institution of the times. She married into the famous Boston Tyler family and joined the Episcopal Church there. She accepted a calling into ministry after her husband's death. Unitarians were not yet accepting of women ministers, So she became one of the first deaconess in the Episcopal tradition, joining 4 other women as the first of their kind in 1853. Universalists finally allowed women to lead churches with the ordination of Olympia Brown, the first woman ordained in America in 1863, nearly 100 years before the merger of Unitarians and Universalists. She charged us with this: stand by this faith, work for it, and sacrifice for it. There is nothing in all the world so important as to be loyal to this faith, which has placed before us the loftiest ideals, which has comforted us in sorrow, strengthened us for noble duty, and made the world beautiful. Do not demand immediate results, but rejoice that we are worthy to be entrusted with this great message, that you are strong enough to work for a true great principle without counting the cost. The tune of our final hymn was named Olympia, after Olympia Brown. As is tradition, we face the world we are about to enter as we sing the final hymn. So please join me and rise as you are willing and able in singing "Love Will Guide Us" in the Gray Hymnal, number 131. The worship of the gathered community is now ended. Go in peace, go in joy, go in love. Oh, yeah, I suppose we should extinguish the chalice before I read the benediction. I suppose. Thank you so much, Sarah. So you can join me in saying the words found in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Now, the worship of our gathered community has now ended. Go in peace, go in joy, go in love to share in the ongoing worship of the community in dispersion. Carry with you what is precious to us all: reverence for all life, beauty that displays itself in love, deep, abiding peace. May it be so.